my darling friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video. I have been really trying to be intentional about my book shopping. I do feel like lately I've just wanted to get back in a bookstore, and I feel like that just happens when you put yourself on a ban and a few months go by and then you just get the itch again. And so as I've been kind of going back into more and more bookstores, I've been trying to be very intentional, maybe just doing some window shopping and even gathering some lists of books that even if I don't buy it, I'm interested to read in the future. And I had the perfect opportunity this week to film a little bookstore shopping vlog for you guys because I spent a week with my kids and my husband down in Florida, which is where I'm from. We went back to my hometown where my sister's living, and she's about to move cross country, so we wanted to make sure that we visited while she was still on the East Coast and super close by. It's only about an 8-hour drive. One that I've done many a time before. My kids are already used to it, and it's just something that we try to do at least once a year since we still have family in Florida. So we ended up spending just a little bit over a week, and I knew when I went back to Florida, I wanted to take some time and go to some local bookstores that are just a little bit different of a change of pace. Obviously, I have my local bookstores I absolutely love here just north of Charlotte in North Carolina, but I really wanted to go, and it's just a book lover's dream to be able to go into different bookstores and just have a great time. So I'm gonna take you guys on a little bookstore tour of Central Florida, and then we're gonna catch back up and I'm gonna show you what I ended up getting, what I didn't get that's still on my list, and just catch up. So roll the tapes. guys, I'm so excited to show you what's in this bag. But first, just a little recap. We ended up going to, I think, a total of 4 bookstores in this vlog, and I truthfully had such a great time. It was so fun. I feel like I get inspired to pick up different books, even just seeing them in a different setup than what I've seen them in other bookstores before. And especially when you go into a local bookstore, even Barnes & Noble sometimes does it, but where it'll have a little card where it's a bookseller recommendation, and it'll make a book stand out to me that maybe I haven't really focused on before, and that's kind of what happened. I actually only ended up physically buying 1 book while we were in Florida, but I definitely wrote some more down on my list. Before we get to the book that I ended up picking and purchasing, and also some bookish goodies that I got from, I think, my favorite stop in Central Florida, I wanted to talk about a few books that did catch my eye that I'm gonna be looking at moving forward. And I guess first things first, I do need to say that I'm kind of in the mood for romance just because I like to read that in the summer. I want to read books that are just very lighthearted and fun in the summertime, and that's generally what I read. I feel like fall is for fantasy, winter is when I'm in my literary and historical fiction mood. Spring, I get back into spring fantasy and romance, and then summer, I mainly do just romance. I'm just very much of a seasonal reader and a mood reader. Also, you are probably gonna hear my kids in the background. It is summertime, and so I'm finding myself filming while they're still awake and about, just because that is the chaos of summertime. So you might see them run by, and hopefully we'll keep that to a minimum. It currently sounds like they're knocking down a wall in their room, but we're just gonna cross our fingers that everything's okay in there, and I'll try to film this somewhat quickly. But I'm just so excited to talk to you guys because it feels like it's been a while. I'm pulling up Goodreads so that I can share my little 5-book list with you of the ones that are currently on my TBR to buy that I didn't buy, but I was very intrigued by. And some of them are surprising to me because 2 of them are in genres that I don't read typically a ton of, so I'm excited about that. First one that caught my eye is actually a YA. I think it's called speculative fiction is the genre that it's in, but for me it kind of sounded like a magical realism, emotional kind of a romance. I was first drawn to it by the cover. I don't know why, there's something about magical realism romance covers that I can just spot from a mile away. I don't know if it's the bright colors or what's going on, but this one's by Kristen Dwyer, and I read the summary for this and it sounded so good. Neve Monroe is devastated after her boyfriend Carter dies, saving her from drowning. Even worse, she blames herself for his death, and so does his best friend, Max. He was there with them on that fateful day, and he's never liked Neve. Unable to pull herself from her grief and wanting to hide from the accusation in his eyes, Neve goes to stay with her grandmother, who has always had strange stories to tell of uncanny happenings, of magic and make-believe. The next morning, Neve wakes up on the first day of college the year before. This time, she plans to make sure Carter never follows her into that river. She'll do everything in her power to keep him safe, even if it means losing him in other ways. But the more distance she puts between her and Carter, the closer she gets to Max, drawn to him in ways she's never expected. But is she betraying Carter if the only way she can save him is to move on? And can she ever forget her past to embrace her future? Kristen Dwyer's In Time With You is a heartbreaking story of first love, loss, and one chance to change everything. I think the reason why this stuck out to me so much is I've kind of been going back watching like emotional romance slash chick flick movies because I have just not watched movies in so long. I use my time to read if I am going to sit down at night, or if I'm gonna watch a movie, I normally watch it with my spouse. He loves like action stuff and I love it too. But recently I've been getting back into just watching movies by myself, and I recently watched this movie that had Joey King in it, and I'm trying to remember if it was called The In-Between, maybe? Yes, it's called The In-Between, and it's essentially about this girl who her boyfriend ends up passing away, and she keeps having these strange things happen around her where she is just convinced that he's trying to reach out to her. It was very emotional and very heartbreaking. Was it the greatest movie of all time as far as like maybe acting wise? In some of the cases, maybe not. But I was so sucked into this movie. I would actually recommend it if you're interested in stuff like that. The summary of In Time With You kind of reminded me a little bit of this movie, The In-Between, where I was so emotionally connected to these characters. So it made me really, really want to read this book. I love a bit of a kind of like a forbidden romance. It's almost like brother's best friend, but we also have more going on. Like when I'm reading a romance, I don't want it to just be very surface level. I want to be very emotionally connected to the characters. So that is one that I am excited to potentially pick up soon. I ended up requesting it from my library. The next one that ended up intriguing me, I actually saw at Barnes & Noble in Orlando, which let me just talk to you about this Barnes & Noble. I'm so jealous, and not even because of the setup of this Barnes & Noble. It's not any newer than my Barnes & Noble, but this specific Barnes & Noble, I don't know what it is that you have to be qualified to be able to have these things, but this specific Barnes & Noble hosts a lot of author events, and they're authors that I have actually read before. I would be so interested in going to these events, and I was so jealous walking through and seeing all these signs like this author's coming, or we're having a panel for these like YA authors or adult authors, and I wish that my Barnes & Noble did that. I just think maybe it's not in a big enough city. Obviously, I was in Orlando. That's a way bigger city than where I currently live, and mine in North Carolina, but it did make me want to look up which Barnes & Nobles near Charlotte do these type of author events, because that's something that I would love to go to. But I digress. I ended up being drawn to the cover first of this book and the title, and it was called Loca by Alejandro Heredia. First of all, I am Hispanic. I don't know if I've ever said that on this channel. It's probably no surprise to you guys by my coloring and haze. I need you to go. I can't hear that stuff until I'm done. It's probably no surprise. You could probably tell just by looking at me, but I am obviously of Hispanic descent. I was born in Puerto Rico. I came over here when I was 3. I know Spanish. And I ended up marrying somebody unknowingly who is also half Puerto Rican, which is kind of funny. But I do feel like I haven't immersed myself enough into Hispanic authors and books by Latino authors, and this one really stuck out to me. Basically, when I read the summary, I was following these 2 Hispanic or Latino youths and kind of just touching on what it's like to be an immigrant and to be a child of immigrants and how that affects your life. The summary says it's 1999 and best friends Sal and Charo are striving to hold on to their dreams in a New York, determined to grind them down. Sal is a book-loving science nerd trying to grow beyond his dead-end job in a new city, but he's held back by tragic memories from his past in Santo Domingo. Free-spirited Charo is surprised to find herself a mother at 25, partnered with a controlling man working at the same supermarket for years. Her world shrunk to the very domestic she thought she'd escaped in her old country. Hey guys, enough, please. When Sal finds love at a gay club one night, both his and Charo's worlds unexpectedly open up to a vibrant social circle that pushes them to reckon with what they owe to their own selves, past, futures, and always with each other. Loca follows one daring year in the lives of young people, living at the edge of their own patience and desires. With expansive grace, it reveals both the grueling conditions that force people to migrate and the possibility of friendship as home, when family, nations, and identity groups fall short. Like I said, the summary kind of just sucked me in, and in the past year I have gotten into more literary fiction, and this one specifically, again, just with following these 2 Latino characters, really made me feel like I could potentially connect with it and made me want to read it. The next one that ended up drawing my eye was actually one that was in the Starbucks part of Barnes & Noble. It was one of those, if you buy a drink, you can get a book for $5, and I didn't buy it because it's in a genre that I never read, but I'm kind of intrigued by it, and now I'm thinking that I might see if I could rent it from the library because it sounded so interesting. It was called Disclaimer by Renee Knight, and it's a mystery thriller, and just listen to this summary. Finding a mysterious novel at her bedside plunges documentary filmmaker Catherine Ravenscroft into a living nightmare. Though ostensibly fiction, The Perfect Stranger recreates in vivid, unmistakable detail the terrible day she became hostage to a dark secret, a secret that only one other person knew, and now that person is dead. Now that the past is catching up with her, Catherine's world is falling apart. Her only hope is to confront what really happened on that awful day, even if the shocking truth might destroy her. That sounded so interesting. I'm just like picturing myself as that character, waking up and there's a book on your nightstand, and it's supposed to be fiction but details like one of the worst events of your life, and the only other person who knew about it is not even alive anymore. That just like blew my mind, and it made me think maybe I do need to give thrillers another try. If you've read that book or any of her others, let me know, so I think I might end up reading that one. Okay, another book that I believe is YA sci-fi, but I've been seeing everywhere recently. It is not a new book. I think that the book series is already complete, and let me just see here. It came out in 2015. So it is not a new book, but it has such crazy high ratings on Goodreads, which is also very intriguing to me. But I've seen it recently. People say that the love stories within these like sci-fi case files or whatever it is are really, really good. And I'm currently in the middle of reading Recursion by Blake Crouch. I'm not trying to say that this is going to relate, but I'm having good luck so far with a blend of genres. Like with that one, it's a sci-fi thriller, but there's also a love story. And so I'm really excited to read this. I've also heard great things about Jay Kristoff. I think he wrote Empire of the Vampire, I want to say. But with this one, I believe it is interconnected standalones within a series. But what's really interesting is when you hold this book and flip through it, it's all of these excerpts, like you're holding a very thick case file of chats and just different things that have been collected and put into here. The summary says, this morning, Katie thought breaking up with Ezra was the hardest thing she'd have to do. This afternoon, her planet was invaded. The year is 2575, and two rival megacorporations are at war over a planet that's little more than a speck at the edge of the universe. Now, with enemy fire raining down on them, Katie and Ezra, who are barely even talking to each other, are forced to evacuate with a hostile warship in hot pursuit. But their problems are just getting started. A plague has broken out and is mutating with terrifying results. The fleet's AI may actually be their enemy, and nobody in charge will say what's really going on. As Katie hacks into a web of data to find the truth, it's clear the only person who can help her is the ex-boyfriend she swore she'd never speak to again. Told through a fascinating dossier of hacked documents, including emails, maps, files, IMs, medical reports, interviews, and more, Illuminae is the first book in a heart-stopping trilogy about lives interrupted, the price of truth, and the courage of everyday heroes. Reading that summary also kind of reminded me of a trilogy that I'm in the middle of right now, which maybe I need to finish it first before I go into this one. This is really intriguing to me though. I feel like I'd be able to fly through it with just the different media that's in these books. But I'm in the middle of the Bound Worlds trilogy, I believe. That is also a sci-fi series that is kind of blended with romance, and it's two unlikely people having to team up together. There's conspiracies going on, and I just had such a great time with the first book. I really, really need to continue the series. But knowing that I like that makes me think that I'm really gonna like this one. And now that we finished the 4 books that really caught my eye in the store that are on my radar, I kind of wanted to show you and walk you through what I actually ended up getting, which is so far out of left field after what I just spoke to you guys about, but it's fine. I ended up making my purchase at the New Romantics, a romance bookstore. First of all, that is the cutest little bookstore. If you are ever in the Orlando area, if you're visiting Disney or whatever, please go there because it was the cutest store, truthfully, as I'm sure you saw in my little montage. The owner was so nice. She was the one who checked me out, and she is like a young Latina small business owner, and she was just adorable, and she was so kind and nice to talk to, and I think it's going to be a permanent stop every time I go back and visit family to go there. Not only do they have just the cutest books and displays and things like that, but they also just had the cutest bookish goods. I truly wanted to get so much more even than I did, but I just loved everything about that store. The branding, they have like a little bookshop on wheels, and I just wanted to walk you through kind of what I ended up getting. And it all almost has a theme to it, just like the pinks and the mauves and all these colors, like how beautiful together. First, I'll walk you through the book I ended up getting, and I am kind of dumb because I realized a mistake that I made once I grabbed this book, but I could not resist this cover. Guys, look at this beautiful cover of Unbound by Peyton Corin. It is so stunning. Immediately when I walked in and saw it, I was like, I think that's gonna be the book that I get today because the cover just really, really spoke to me. But also then when I read the back, I realized that it was like a hockey emotional romance, and I just finished the Off-Campus series and I was kind of in the mood for something to fill the void. I don't normally read sports romance, but this one really sounded like it could be up my alley. I realized after I bought this that this is actually book 3 in this series of these like really emotional romances that have good representation for mental health and just different things that do happen in everyday life. And so I realized that I did get book 3, and so I do need to read books 1 and 2 first. But when I researched it, the new covers, they were originally released with different covers. I'll put them on the screen, and the new covers are already available for the audiobook and the ebook, but if you want to buy them physically, they're going to come out sometime this summer, so I will probably either borrow them from my library or listen to them with my Spotify hours, and then when they come out, get them. But they sound so good, and specifically when I went into reading the summary for the first book, once I realized that I bought the 3rd book in the series, which was dumb of me, it sounded so good. It was about like this hockey player who ended up getting really, really injured on the ice, and now every time he goes back, he has like major panic attacks, PTSD, and our female main character ends up finding him in the middle of one of them and ends up being really the driving force by how he overcomes this trauma that he has. And then she also has some really hard things going on in her own life. I think she's basically taking custody of her 2 brothers, not officially, but she's the one who cares for them, who pays the bills, all while trying to make her own figure skating dreams still be a reality. I, again, just love like an emotional romance. I want there to be depth. I want to feel for the main characters, and so I'm really excited to get into the series. But these covers are just everything. They're so stunning. I love like the Japanese style of drawing, you know what I mean? I don't know how else to describe this, but it's just truthfully beautiful, and the color schemes of each book cover are just everything. Showing you the little bookish goods that I got. I'll start with the smallest and then we'll end with the biggest. The first one was this little Slow Burn book club sticker. I would love to either have a water bottle that I cover in stickers like this, or I also thought about having the back of my Kindle have stickers that I've picked up from around, you know, the States and the bookstores that I go to, and then maybe I'll just write on the back like where I got it from. But if you know me, you know that I am part of the Slow Burn book club. I just love a good slow burn. The next one I got was this bookmark that I felt like also went with it. It is from the Sweet Lovely Bookish Goods. I need to go and see if they have an Instagram, but I absolutely love the pattern. It is full of some of my favorite tropes on here. It says just one more chapter, one bed at the end, touch her and die, fake dating, friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, and I just thought it was so cute. And I also thought I really wanted to use it with this book because it just matches the vibes in there. And then kind of going on with the pink theme, they had these little packages that they've made with annotating goods, and I'm out of my annotating supplies very recently. They lasted me about a year because I bought a big pack, but now I basically have nothing left. And in this pack, it came with 2 different book highlighters, and depending on which one you picked, a specific color scheme of annotation supplies. And I thought, okay, well, I definitely want to use these for not only the book that I got, but any summer romances that I read. So I thought this would be good. And I also picked it based off of the tea because each one came with a different tea, and I thought I would enjoy this one the most. It's a raspberry herbal tea, which I've never tried. I very much like a mint tea or a matcha. I do love a matcha, as you guys probably already know, but I just thought that this would be so cute and just all together. I mean, look at this. Just leaving with this, so cute. I love the color scheme, truthfully. Anyways, that does bring me to the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for being here, for watching this. If you liked this video, feel free to stick around and binge any other videos on my channel, and subscribe if you want, and subscribe if you don't want to miss a thing. But I will see you, my darling friends, in the next one. Bye!